tonight we're going to be talking about the ACT nomination program. I'm Iris Bernardini-Mizumoto, registered migration agent for Bridge Oz Migration Consultancy. So this is just a brief overview of what we're going to discuss. So I'm going to start with the overview. So the total allocation for the ACT this year is 1,800, so 1,000 for the 190 and 800 for the 491. The selection criteria is normally based on the Canberra matrix, which is a bit of a complex. They look into several factors. I'm going to show you that a little bit ahead. And the occupations in general, especially if you're overseas, must be in the critical list. There are two different pathways where if you are on a 482 or you're a business owner, you don't need to be on that list, but in general, you are required to be on the occupation list. So there's a special stream for those who have completed a PhD in Canberra. So you need to be either living in Canberra for 12 months or you are overseas, interstate, and completed a doctorate degree at Canberra University in the last 2 years. So this is a pretty straightforward and it's a streamlined stream. Once you complete the Canberra matrix, and if you're claiming that you have completed your doctorate in there, you'll be automatically assigned to the doctorate stream. So in the general stream for the 190, if you are a resident in Canberra, you must have been living in the ACT for at least 6 months and working for at least 30 hours in the previous 26 weeks before the application. That date is from the date that you apply for your registration, okay? You need to have at least proficiency in English, so you need to get at least 65 in your PTE, unless you're a chef. They allow it that you meet the minimum visa requirement, which is 50. If your occupation either needs to be on the list or you are the holder of TSS and you have been working for your sponsor, which is a business in Canberra, for at least 6 months. The general stream, if you're overseas, you must have at least 3 years of work experience in your nominated occupation, at least proficient English, and you must be living overseas for at least 1 year and no other visa to Australia. So if you still have a student visa or a graduate visa and you have been living in Victoria and just went home back for 3 months, that's not enough. They will not nominate you. For the 491, the criteria is similar, but it's a shorter amount of time. So you must be living in Canberra for at least 3 months and working for at least 15 hours in the last 13 weeks before the application. The occupation must be either in the list, unless you are the holder of a TSS. And I have in that note in there, and that applies for both the 190 and the 491. They have included, because there are no longer business visas available. So they have included in those streams, if you own a small business in Canberra and that business meets some requirements, you may qualify for either the 491 or the 190 visa. So the business requirements are that you are the majority owner, so have at least 51% of the business, and the business is profitable. And how do you demonstrate that? You're getting at least 26,000 in the last 6 months as your taxable income. That means it's not the turnover of the business, it's actually a profit that you are taking home. Or if you're going to go for a 491, you need to prove that it had made at least 13K in the last 6 months. You must be employing at least one Australian or New Zealand citizen or a permanent resident for 13 weeks from the date of the lodgement matrix. And this can be part-time employment, but a minimum of 20 hours per week. For those who are overseas, you must have at least 1 year of work experience in your area. So in the nominated occupation, this must be post-qualification. And you must be living overseas for at least 1 year and no visa to Australia other than a visitor visa, of course. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the Canberra matrix. So the Canberra matrix is the way that the ACT scores their applicants. I'm going to show you. There's different matrix. I'm going to actually turn on share my screen here. and show you the matrix. So the matrix is going to address those questions that I was explaining about the requirements, but it's also looking into your links with Canberra. I'm going to show here for the Canberra residents, for example. So here are the questions. So how long have you been living in Canberra? And here's they are actually put in detail what kind of evidence that you need to provide that you've been living in Canberra. There's one thing that is quite interesting about living in Canberra. Canberra is the territory of the ACT is actually really small. So if you live in a 30 minutes radius, even if it's New South Wales, it's still considered as if you're living in Canberra. They're going to ask about your language proficiency, your partner qualifications. They're going to ask about your nominated occupation. They're going to ask if you are claiming that you are a business owner, so you have all the requirements about the business owners. Depending on the profit you're making or the turnover, you're going to make more points in the Canberra, score more points in the Canberra matrix. They're going to ask about your employment in Canberra, the skill level. There's several questions in there. I'm just showing this to give an overview of what is the Canberra matrix. They're going to ask about your qualifications, your study in the ACT, but every item they're looking in there, they're trying to assess your ties with Canberra. If you have any assets in there, so that will give extra points. If you have a minimum of cash or if you hold property, that will give you extra points as well. So this is the Canberra matrix for those who are in residents in Canberra. If you're overseas, they're going to ask slightly different questions, but it's still about have you ever spent any time in Canberra. They're going to ask about your proficiency partner. If you have a job offer, have you looked into job applications? I'm going to scroll this quickly because I want to show in the end. They're going to also keep asking, have you ever studied it? Do you have close family ties? Do you have any assets? So in general, they're going to be asking questions about your ties and about the questions that the requirements that are part of the streams as well. You're going to be invited based on this ranking. And then the process goes. Once you register your interest, they will rank all the applicants. They make several rounds of invitations. The next one is happening on the 30th of August, if I'm not mistaken. So there's still time to apply. If you wish to apply to do the Canberra matrix, if they decide, if based on your rank they invite you, then you have 14 days to respond. There's an application fee of $200. Once you receive the nomination, you must apply for the visa within 60 days. Certain things that you need to demonstrate when you're invited for the nomination, you need to provide evidence that you have settlement funds if you're overseas, evidence that you have researched the Canberra job market. So you look for employment, so you need to make a statement saying, I've looked at these positions and here's how my experience will be relevant to Canberra. And also a statement explaining why you would like to live in Canberra. So this is all about Canberra. We're going to do another short one about a different state, and then we will open for questions. Questions that are normally asked and how does Canberra applies to that. So if you have an EOI and you're overseas, you can select any state and Canberra. So they accept multiple state selections. You can submit more than one Canberra matrix at a time. Of course, there's no point in submitting for the same occupation, but let's say you have different occupations. You can submit more than one, or you can submit for more than one type of visa if you qualify for both of them. And they will look into that, but you're only going to receive one nomination. So once you apply, if you're being invited for more than one of the categories, you need to choose one, and then you must, because you can only apply for one at a time, and you're only going to get one nomination. We're going to open for questions later on after we finish the next state that we're going to talk about today. Thank you.